Okay, so welcome to today's homework for Lesson 8. We covered a lot of ground in Lesson 8 and Day 8, and we have quite a few topics that we can choose from. However, I'm going to focus on building stored procedures and using those stored procedures in an application, and we're going to utilize ADO.NET 2.0 connected mode, the examples that we created for that a little bit earlier in the day. So today's homework assignment, here's the scenario. You're a contractor that's been hired by the FBI for a 3-month contract to quickly implement an application that will keep track of incidents that involve a terrorist group called the Fifth Column as they seek to drive our new friends, the visitors, from our planet. The FBI has an existing database structure. I have the database open here within Visual C# 2010 Express Edition. You can see there's 3 tables. There's an agent table, an incident table, and then a lookup table called incident type. First of all, in the agent table, it's pretty easy. You have the agent ID, which is just an integer field, a first name and a last name. If you take a look at the incident field, you can see that we have an incident ID, the country where this occurred, an incident type ID, which is going to look up this other table called incident type. So we just have 1, 2, 3, or 4, and those correspond to either vandalism, insurgency, protest, or incitement. Then we have an agent ID, who registered this incident, who investigated it, and then finally an incident date time. Okay, so wherever you downloaded this video file that you're watching right now, or if you're viewing it streaming, there should be a file on the same page called code.zip. It's specifically associated with this video, and you have to download it inside that zip file. I gave you a project called Fifth Column with a SQL Server Express Edition MDB database called fifthcolumn.mdb, or rather MDF, apologize. This is going to be the starting point for your project, so you should copy that entire project into your, let's open it up here. It should go into Documents, Visual Studio 2010 projects. So just copy it in with the rest of the projects that you've been creating up to this point. Then you should be able to open it up in Visual C# 2010. Okay, so once you've done that, then there are 2 assignments. The first assignment is that you need to create 2 stored procedures. The first stored procedure is to get all incidents in a given country code. So if you take a look, I have here get incidents by country, and if I were to execute this, I just right click and select execute. It'll ask for a value, and I'm going to type in US and click OK, and it should return back to us all of the incidents that happened with where the country code is the United States. Okay? So a country code is just a 2-character representation of a country. So for example, US for United States, AU for Australia, and so on. The stored procedure should pull back data from each of the 3 tables. So you're going to need to display, as you see here, the incident ID. You can pull back the country if you want to. For validation purposes, it should all be the same country. The agent's first name and last name, and the incident type name, and that's going to come from the 3rd table, incident type. So again, you're going to be creating a join between all 3 tables to pull back this information. Alright, so then there's a second stored procedure called insert incident, and if you right click and execute that, you'll see that basically you'll need to fill out the country, the incident type ID 1 through 4, the agent ID, I think I have agents 1 through 100, and a date for the incident date. Okay, well, we won't do that now. But these 2 stored procedures are not in your existing database when you open up the code.zip file. You need to build these yourself. I'm going to delete these out of it and give you the project. Okay, so after you have built those 2 stored procedures, then the second thing that you need to do is then create a console window application that will execute those 2 new stored procedures. So I've already got one in the oven. Let me go ahead and run the application and let you show you how it works. So notice here that I have a menu, and you can choose 1, 2, or 3 from the menu. I'm going to select the number 1 and then click the return key on my keyboard. When I select the first menu item, it then allows me to type in a country code. So in this case, let me type in US and then click the return key on my keyboard, and it will display the agent's first and last name. And notice how it's formatted. I have an agent colon space, Tanya space, Walton space, and I have a dash, and the word investigated, and then colon, and then I have the type of incident. So this is incitement, protest, vandalism, and so on, and those are pulled again from that incident type table. So then notice at the very bottom of this it says press return to continue, and I hit the return key on my keyboard, and it pulls me back. It clears off the screen, off the console window, and now I see the menu a second time. This time I'm going to choose the second menu option. I'm going to click 2 and then hit return on my keyboard. And so then now I'm inserting a new incident. What country code? Let's go ahead and make this for the United States. Agent ID, I'm going to type in 99. The incident ID 1 through 4, I'll type in the number 3. And so then once I do that, it says incident recorded successfully, so it automatically created the date timestamp based on right now. And then it says press return to continue. I push return to continue, and now I should be able to see that incident that I just created. I'm going to click 1, and then I'm going to type US, and you can see this last one was just added recently. And I'm going to press return, and then I'm going to click 3 to exit and press return, and now it should exit the application. Okay, so this is quite a bit more than you've done in the past, right? Especially with that whole menuing system. I think you can figure that out. It's really just console write line, console read line, and then I think I used a clear to like clear off the screen and redisplay it. Now what I also did was I used a kind of a looping scheme within the main, so that when you finish one operation, it calls out to a method and displays and takes care of all that, and then once you exit out of that method, it comes back through that loop within main, and so then I make that the next choice, and I just keep displaying that based on whatever selection was made. Alright, so I know that might be a little tricky. Try your best to think through how can you make that exact example look. Watch through this video, just that portion again, and think, how could I make that menuing system work? This isn't really a UI exercise. This is a logic exercise for you to figure out how to make that work using the tools you already have. Okay, so with specific regard then to database access, you're going to need about 4 videos to reference, and I don't pull examples from any of those 4 particularly. You're going to have to kind of mold those ideas together to come up with a solution to this. So take a look at video on day 8, video 2 and 3, which teach you how to create storage procedures, and then video 3 teach you how to use store procedures with input parameters. Then I want you to take a look at video 6, which will show you how to create the right connection string to that MDF file in your project. And then it'll also show you how to call a stored procedure using a SQL command and a data reader. Okay? Then I want you to look at video 7 or reference it, because that's where we use the parameters collection. Now admittedly in that video it shows the parameters collection as a property of SQL command. And the SQL command as a property of the data adapter for so that we could use it with a data set. Now that's in a disconnected mode, but we want to use the parameters in a connected mode. So you're going to essentially be doing the exact same thing, but just without all of the data adapter stuff. In other words, the data adapter allowed you to define more than one SQL command for the select, insert, update, and delete. But you don't need all of that. All you're concerned about is a single SQL command to do either the to execute either this stored procedure or that stored procedure. Okay, so you think you got it? I think you can do this, but it's going to be a little bit of a stretch. It's different than what you've done before, and I've put a lot more of the onus on you now to think through how to take all the information that I've given you and synthesize that into an application that does what I displayed on screen. So if you get stuck, don't worry, do the best you can, but I do have the solution for this in the next video. In the it should be VCS2010 _08 _ solution. So we'll see you in that video. Thank you and good luck.